Hi everybody, it's Miss Taylor here, getting ready to start the step-by-step demonstration of how to start your paper mache lantern. You don't have to turn it into a lantern if you don't want to, but I'm going to go through all the steps if you'd like to. First thing, the materials that you need: balloon, any color will do, something to set your balloon on. I like to use recycled items from my kitchen. So any kind of container that you might have left over from food. If you don't have anything plastic that's easily to throw away or recycle, you can also use a canned good, like a can of tomato sauce or soup can or something, anything empty that's been eaten. If you have anything random laying around that would make a good stand, I have this left over from Christmas from Trader Joe's, would also make a really good stand for my balloon. This will just make it easier for your drying time. If you don't have anything to stand your balloon on, there's also the option of string. All you have to do is take a piece of string, tie it around the end, and then you can find somewhere to hang it to dry. The only issue with this, if you decide to approach it in this way, is when you leave it to dry, make sure you put a plastic bag or something underneath it to catch any glue that's going to drip, otherwise you'll end up with glue on your floor. All right, so let's get started. All right, here we go. So let's get started with obviously blowing up a balloon. Any color will do and any shape will do also. I like the round balloons for this project, but if you have other shapes, that's fun too. Find something to stand it on. I'm gonna be using this old cookie container from Trader Joe's from Christmas time. But like I said, any kind of old yogurt container, sour cream, butter, anything like that works really well. Also Tupperware or even just an old plastic cup. So you want to place it sort of centered on whatever you're using as a stand. Grab some tape, any tape that you have handy, Scotch tape, masking tape, painter's tape, packing tape, any kind of tape you have laying around. I'm going to be using the blue painter's tape today. I like to use this because then I know how far to go down with my paper mache strips, when to stop. So you just want to pick up your container and your balloon. I like to sometimes just hold it against my body and put half the strip on my container, half the strip on my balloon. Really 2 strips is enough, but you can do more if you feel more comfortable doing more. Don't go too far up the balloon. Okay, once you have your balloon set up and ready to paper mache, I'm just gonna go ahead and put that off to the side. You need to grab some white paper. Any paper will do. I'm just gonna use printer paper today because I have a lot of it. Old printouts or old homework will work too. It might have some text or some print on it, but that's okay. Once ripped up, you won't really be able to tell what it says, and it might make a really cool effect also. Construction paper, sketchbook paper, really any kind of white paper will do. And if you don't have any white paper of any kind, you can also just use newspaper. It won't have the same effect for a lantern, but it will still be a really cool project. So you want to prepare your paper by ripping it into small strips, right? Nothing too big, about a little less than 1 inch thick. What I usually do is I'll fold my paper in half to start. That way I can get some nice short strips. So do a nice fold. And for the students that started paper mache with me before this quarantine will remember this step. We folded it in half once. And then sometimes I'll just place my paper together and rip them at the same time, but you don't have to do that. And then you're just gonna hold your paper here and you can just rip it down, right? I'll show that again. Just hold it with your finger, start a little rip at the top and then rip it straight down. You can also hold it against the table with one finger, and you can usually get a nice strip that way as well, whatever is easier for you. If you're having trouble with this, you can always ask a parent for help. If you're not getting straight strips, that's okay. That just means that you might be ripping against the grain of the paper. You don't have to understand what that means, just means flip the paper. So if you're ripping it in this direction and you're getting these really wonky rips, they're not ripping straight, then turn the paper the other way, right? So I like to rip mine vertical. So if you're ripping horizontal and you're not getting a good rip, let's see if it'll do it for me. Yeah, so if something like that happens, it's because you're going against the grain. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it this direction and you'll see what I mean. Now I'm getting a nice, perfect strip. Don't have to fold it in the beginning like I did. You can also do it long ways and then just rip it in half. Okay, so you want to go ahead and just make a bunch of strips. Nice big pile to get started. If it's too thick, don't worry about it. You can always rip that in half again. If your paper is kind of wonky and you're not getting nice, long, straight strips, don't worry about it. You can't really mess up ripping with paper. It's all gonna kind of blend together once we start adding glue. Okay, so once you have a nice pile of paper, just go ahead and put that off to the side, and we're gonna go ahead and prepare our glue mixture. So you have a couple of options depending on what you have access to at home. I really love using just good old school glue, Elmer's, right? I got this one at the dollar store, and I think I got this one at the grocery store. Any of those will work just the same, mixed with just plain old water, or you can use the old-fashioned way, which is a little bit of flour, water, and salt. So let's go over how to use both of those. I'm gonna start with the school glue, and if it's a small bottle like this one, you can see with my hand what size it is. Just go ahead and take the top off and just dump that whole bottle into a plastic container. An old pie plate will also work, or even a, like not a paper plate, but like a paper bowl. I like to use plastic, especially if it still has the lid, because then if I have any glue left over, I can put the lid on and save it for later. You can tell I like butter because I got a lot of those. So I'm gonna go ahead and dump this glue in, try to get as much out of the bottle as I can. Okay, then you can either use your hand, which I always like to do, or you can use a old paintbrush. And most people like to do equal amounts of water to glue. I like to use a little less water because then you get a little bit better consistency and it's not so drippy and messy. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of water in to start. So not the full amount as you did glue. So if you did a cup of glue, I would start with about a half a cup of water and move up from there. You can use your brush to mix it, or you can use your hand. You want to get kind of almost like a mayonnaise-y, between mayonnaise and ranch kind of consistency, right? Not too thick like glue, but it's still going to be sticky like glue, and not too watery. If it's just straight water, it's just going to drip. This is actually pretty good. I could add a little bit more water. And you'll see as you get going, if it's dripping a ton, you want to maybe go back and add a little bit more glue to your mixture. So that's one way you can create a glue for paper mache. The other way is with flour. So I've got a little shorter yogurt container here, or is this cream cheese? So I'm gonna put a little bit of just plain white flour. I wouldn't use wheat flour for this. You could try gluten-free flour if you have an allergy. I've never done that, but I'm sure it would work just as good. Just straight white flour with a little bit of water. A lot of recipes online will say 1 cup flour to 1 cup water. I actually find that to be too watery. I'm out of water here. So I usually just add as I go and start mixing. And if it's like Play-Doh, then you need way more water. If it's way watery, then you're gonna add some more flour. It's gonna make a really fun consistency. You don't want it to be too sticky. You want it to be a little bit closer to your glue and water mixture if you did that one before. We did do that in the classroom. Oh, I'm making a mess. Oh, good to point out. Notice how I'm making a mess here. Students, parents, I like to put something down on my work surface, like a garbage bag or an old plastic bag of some sort. Really helps with your cleanup, so you don't have glue and sticky flour all over your counter or your table. Or you could also just do this outside and not have to worry about it at all. I just cut a garbage bag in half and laid it on my countertop. All right, we've got a nice gluey consistency. So I've got 2 different glues because I'm gonna make a couple of different lanterns today, and you can see the difference. The flour and water mixture, you wanna make sure you also add a little bit of salt. Here's my salt container. My son loves dinosaurs. The salt will help for when it's drying. If it takes a long time to dry, it'll keep it from molding. I mix in a little bit of flour. Don't need to do that with the glue mixture. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put that off to the side, and I am ready to start paper macheing. So here is my balloon, nice and clean, ready to go. And I'm gonna go ahead and start with my flour mixture. Now, some students don't like getting their hands dirty. If that's the case, then you can use the paintbrush. So if that is what you wanna do, you can just paint right onto the balloon. your flour mixture, place one of your strips down, and then paint over on top again. You want it to lay nice and flat. Okay, then you get another strip, and you're gonna wanna put it side by side, like so, right on the edge. Glue it with your mixture again. And then you just wanna do this until the entire balloon is covered. I always like to do 2 layers of paper. You can do 1. If you get tired, come back later. And when you're paper macheing, just make sure that your paper is laying pretty flat down to the balloon, and you wanna stop when you get to the tape, to about right here, okay? Now, if you don't have a paintbrush, or if you don't mind getting dirty, which is me, I don't mind getting my fingers dirty, you can also just take your strip, dip it into the mixture, use your in between your 2 fingers to kind of slide some of the mixture off, scrape some of the excess off on the side of the bowl, and then you can just place it on your balloon and use your fingers to lay it flat. I'll show that again. Take your strip, dip it into your mixture. You can use your thumb and your finger. I find these 2 fingers work the best because they kind of are flat. Pull it through, scrape off that excess on the side of the bowl, and then put it right there on the side. Okay, and now here we go. Okay, everybody, once you get that first layer on, you are ready to just set it aside and let it dry. Notice how I stopped right about at my tape. Some of them go past, but that's okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and leave this to dry for a few hours before I do layer number 2. Now, if you chose the white glue and water mixture to create your paper mache paste, then you're gonna wanna maybe go ahead and do another 2 or 3 layers. I'm just gonna do 1 layer for my flour glue, just to kind of wait and see how stiff it does get. So if you're doing the white glue mixture, make sure you do 2 or 3 layers with your paper. If you're doing the flour and water mixture, go ahead and stick to 1 layer, let it dry, and come back and see if you need any more layers, which we will go over in the next video. Thanks for making with me.